The weak believe sales is manipulation. The powerful understand sales is control. This misunderstanding is not accidental. It is a comforting lie told by those who lack leverage to excuse their inability to command outcomes. They tell themselves that selling is dirty, that it is an intrusion, a necessary evil. Machiavelli would recognize this symptom immediately. Men often moralize what they cannot master. But we are not here to discuss morality. We are here to discuss mechanics. Sales is not the art of convincing equals. It is the science of hierarchy. When you feel uncomfortable asking for money, when you hesitate to state your price, it is not because the act itself is wrong. It is because in that moment you perceive yourself as standing beneath the buyer. You are seeking approval instead of asserting position. And in the brutal arithmetic of human psychology, no one respects a man who asks permission to lead. Rejection does not wound you because it is painful. It wounds you because it exposes your powerlessness. Every stutter, every unnecessary explanation, every premature discount is a confession. You are admitting uncertainty, and uncertainty acts like blood in the water. It invites predation, not cooperation. Humans are not rational first. We are territorial. We sense weakness long before we process logic. The central lie of modern business is that selling is about persuasion. Persuasion is what one uses when authority is absent. A barrister persuades a jury because he has no power over the verdict. A beggar persuades a passerby because he has no leverage. True selling, elite selling, is positioning yourself as the inevitable option. This is why the aggressive, loud, closer archetype is a failure. Aggression is not strength, it is noise. Machiavelli warned that rulers who rely on brute force reveal their instability. The same applies here. The seller who pressures, rushes, or begs is signaling desperation, and desperation is the most repulsive scent in the marketplace. Power speaks calmly. A seller in control does not chase the deal. He structures the environment so that the deal moves toward him. He assumes value. He does not prove it. Proof is for the courts, not for dominance. In this masterclass, we will dismantle the myths of customer service and persuasion and replace them with the cold, efficient laws of Machiavellian psychology. We will explore 9 immutable laws. These are not tactics. Tactics are for foot soldiers. These are principles of governance. If you are looking for a way to be liked, leave now. If you are looking for a way to be obeyed, listen closely. Act 1. The foundation of authority. Authority is not given, it is assumed, and it rests on 2 pillars: what you believe internally and how you govern yourself privately. Without these, no script can save you. Law 1. The law of congruence. Belief as a weapon. The first law is the law of congruence. It states, power cannot flow through a divided mind. The most common mistake in sales is not poor technique, weak scripts, or a lack of charisma. It is internal disbelief. And in the high-stakes arena of negotiation, disbelief is fatal. Machiavelli would call this illegitimacy. A ruler who questions his own right to rule invites conspiracy. A seller who questions his own product invites resistance. We have all seen the salesman who says all the right words. His script is perfect, his tone is polite, yet you do not trust him. Why? Because human beings are evolutionary predators of inconsistency. We have spent 200,000 years learning to detect deception. When a man speaks one truth outwardly but holds another inwardly, his body betrays him. Micro-expressions, a slight delay in eye contact, a tightening of the vocal cords, these are the signals of a fractured reality. If you secretly believe your product is overpriced, your voice will soften when you state the fee. If you believe your service is mediocre, you will over-explain to compensate. If you believe you are bothering the prospect, you will apologize for your existence. You cannot hide this. You cannot fake it until you make it. That is advice for fools. Your nervous system will always broadcast your true state. This leads to a ruthless conclusion that most are unwilling to accept. Never sell what you do not believe in. This is not a moral instruction, it is a strategic one. Selling something you doubt forces you into a state of cognitive dissonance. You are fighting yourself, and a man at war with himself creates no external force. The buyer does not consciously analyze this, they simply feel off. They withdraw. They say, "I need to think about it." They are not thinking about the product, they are trying to escape the smell of your uncertainty. A man selling luxury does not apologize for the price. A man selling life-saving surgery does not beg the patient to accept. Only the unsure explain themselves. Belief is the foundation of dominance. Understand this. People do not buy products, they buy certainty. They buy the calm confidence of someone who knows the outcome will be better with them than without them. Certainty is a transferable asset, but you cannot give what you do not have. If you do not believe in what you sell, you have two choices. Fix the product until it meets your standard, or leave. Do not push through it. Do not hope motivation will arrive later. Those are the strategies of servants. If the product does not improve the buyer's position in a way you respect, walk away. Find a better vehicle. But once belief is present, once you know with absolute conviction that your solution is the only logical path, selling changes form entirely. You stop seeking approval, you stop negotiating, you begin guiding. The conversation shifts from "will this work?" to "do you qualify for this result?" This is why elite sellers appear relaxed. They are indifferent to rejection because rejection does not threaten their reality. They know the truth of their value. If a buyer is too blind to see it, that is the buyer's loss, not the seller's failure. This indifference is strength. When you are sold on your product, you no longer feel like you are taking money. You feel like you are redirecting it, away from stagnation, away from waste, and towards leverage. Guilt disappears, and when guilt disappears, power rushes in to fill the void. Law 2. The law of self-governance, the architecture of the self. If Law 1 is about believing in the product, Law 2 is about believing in the messenger. The law of self-governance states, a man who cannot govern himself will never govern others. Before you sell a client, before you sell a market, you must sell yourself. This is not motivational rhetoric, it is structural reality. Power does not pass through doubt, it leaks. Most people fail in sales because they are internally illegitimate. They ask others to commit, to invest, to take action, while privately knowing they themselves do not live by the standards they demand. Imagine a financial advisor who is drowning in debt. Imagine a fitness coach who is visibly out of shape. Imagine a business consultant who cannot manage his own calendar. Even if their advice is technically correct, their presence is hollow. They are hypocrites, and hypocrisy is the rust that eats away at authority. Machiavelli warned that a prince must not only have virtue, but must appear to have it. But in the modern age, with information so transparent, the only way to appear to have virtue is to actually possess it. The market senses your level of self-respect. Self-respect is not a given right, it is earned through discipline. It is built in the dark, in the early mornings, in the tasks you finish when no one is watching. Every time you lie to yourself, by hitting the snooze button, by quitting a workout early, by delaying a difficult phone call, you weaken your internal authority. You are teaching your subconscious that your word is not binding. And if your word is not binding to you, why should it be binding to a client? This is the hidden mechanic of charisma. Charisma is not magic, it is the energy of a man who trusts himself. When you keep promises to yourself, you build a reservoir of certainty. You know that if you say you will deliver, you will deliver. You know that if you say a product works, you have verified it. You know that you are dangerous, in the best possible way. You are a man of capability. Buyers crave this. We live in a world of flakiness, of broken promises, of weak men. When a buyer encounters someone who is solid, who is aligned, who speaks with the weight of discipline behind his words, they feel safe.
They surrender control because they trust your governance more than their own. Selling yourself does not mean arrogance. Arrogance is a shield for insecurity. Selling yourself means credibility. You must reach a point where you do not need the client's validation to know your worth. Your worth is established by your track record with yourself. When you possess this, you stop chasing. You stop accepting bad deals. You stop shrinking your offer to be liked. You begin holding others to your standard instead of lowering yourself to theirs. If you want others to bet on you with their capital, you must show them that you have already bet on yourself with your life. You are the proof of concept. If you are not sold on you, no one else will be. Once these two laws, congruence and self-governance, are established, you are no longer a salesperson. You are a sovereign entity. You have the right to speak. You have the right to lead. Now we can discuss how to dismantle the buyer's resistance. This brings us to the architecture of the sale itself.
Act 2. The architecture of control. You have purified your belief. You have disciplined your habits. You are now a vessel of authority. But standing firm is not enough. You must now project that firmness outward to reshape the reality of the buyer. Most sellers view a transaction as a meeting of two equals. This is their error. A sale is a transfer of leadership. One party leads, the other follows. One party sets the frame, the other inhabits it. Act 2 is about constructing that frame. Law 3. The law of escape. Sell the exit, not the vehicle. The third law states, people do not buy products, they buy escape. The amateur seller explains features, the master exposes consequences. This is the difference between a clerk and a strategist. Consider this carefully. No one wakes up wanting your product. No one wants a consulting package. No one wants a software subscription. No one wants a gym membership. These are burdens. They take time, money, and effort. What do they want? They want relief from shame. They want to escape limitation. They want to silence the quiet, gnawing fear that their life is stagnating. Products are rational objects, but buying is a violent emotional decision. Those who confuse the two sell slowly, if at all. The common illusion is this: if I explain what it does, they will understand its value. This is false. Understanding does not move people. Urgency moves people, and urgency is created by pain, not information. Machiavelli understood that men are driven more by fear of loss than by desire for gain. He knew that people move faster away from the fire than they do toward the warmth. The same law governs markets. A buyer only acts when the cost of doing nothing becomes heavier than the cost of change. Your role is not to decorate the solution. It is to clarify the trap they are already in. No one buys a luxury car for transportation. They buy dignity and social armor. No one buys weight loss programs for health. They buy the end of self-disgust. No one buys education for knowledge. They buy leverage over a future that currently frightens them. The product is merely the vehicle. The destination is psychological freedom. This is why you must stop pitching and start diagnosing. You must uncover the shadow cost. What remains broken if the buyer does nothing? What humiliation continues? What revenue is bled out? You must make the present moment unbearable. Do not misunderstand this as cruelty. It is clarity. Most people sleepwalk through their suffering, rationalizing it, tolerating it. You are the alarm clock. When you name a buyer's problem more clearly than they can, you assume the position of the expert. You temporarily control their narrative, and whoever controls the narrative controls the checkbook.
Law 4. The law of inevitability, positioning as the gatekeeper. Once you understand what you are truly selling, escape, you must understand how to offer it. The law of inevitability states, do not persuade, stand where the money flows. The weak persuade, the powerful decide. Persuasion is the behavior of those who lack authority and must compensate with effort. When you try too hard to convince, you announce to the room that the decision is not obvious. You signal that you need them more than they need you. Recall the dynamics of the royal court. Does the king beg the courtier to accept a title? No, he grants it. True selling is positioning yourself as the inevitable option. This is the shift from hunter to gatekeeper. Most people sell like servants, hoping to be chosen. Please pick me. Look at my features. Look at my discount. This is repulsive. The elite seller operates as a gatekeeper, deciding who is allowed access to the outcome. They are not asking, "Will you buy?" They are asking, "Are you capable of using this?" This inversion is everything. Sales ceases to be extraction and becomes filtration. When you adopt this frame, aggression becomes unnecessary. Aggression is noise. Power is calm. You do not chase the deal. You structure the environment so the deal collapses towards you. The seller who pressures, rushes, or begs signals desperation. Desperation repels. But the seller who is indifferent to the outcome, who knows his value is absolute, regardless of this specific transaction, becomes magnetic. Scarcity is not a tactic you fake by saying, "Only 3 spots left." Scarcity is a consequence of your standards. If you are willing to walk away from a client who is a bad fit, you are scarce. If you are willing to refuse money because the buyer is not ready, you are scarce. When the buyer feels that you are vetting them, the power dynamic flips. They stop negotiating price and start negotiating acceptance. They begin justifying the purchase to themselves. They argue for the deal. They convince themselves. And that is the ultimate Machiavellian victory. To have the subject believe the decision was entirely their own, while you held the keys the entire time.
Law 5. The Law of Diagnosis. Questions as weapons. How do we execute this filtration? Through the law of diagnosis. The amateur speaks. The master asks. He who asks the questions controls the focus of the mind. If I ask you, "Why is your current system failing?" your brain is forced to access memories of failure. If I ask you, "What happens if you don't fix this in 6 months?" your brain is forced to simulate a future of pain. Questions are not just for gathering data, they are for inducing states of mind. The weak seller fears asking deep questions because they think discomfort will scare the buyer away. In reality, discomfort clarifies. You must become a surgeon of the ego. You must peel back the layers of polite conversation to find the tumor. How long has this been a problem? What have you tried that failed? Who else is affected by this failure? Is this a priority or just something you are hoping will fix itself? These questions tighten the frame. They force the buyer to confront their own incompetence or inaction. This leads to a critical realization. No is not rejection. No is simply incomplete awareness. When a buyer says no or "I need to think about it," they are not rejecting you. They are protecting their ignorance. They do not yet see the cliff edge you see. Your job is not to argue with the no. Your job is to investigate it. I understand you need to think about it, but let me ask, what exactly is going to change between now and next week that will make this decision easier? You strip away the excuses until only the raw truth remains. Usually, the truth is fear. Fear of change. Fear of making a mistake. Once the fear is exposed, it can be killed.
Law 6. The Law of Construction. Building the ladder of yes. Finally, we arrive at the mechanics of the close. The sale is a chain of micro-agreements. Machiavelli knew that to lead a populace, you do not demand total submission on day one. You guide them step by step until they are so deep in your territory that retreat is impossible. In sales, this is called momentum. You must engineer the conversation so that saying yes becomes the path of least resistance. Do you agree that this problem is costing you money? Yes. Do you agree that fixing it is a priority? Yes.
Do you agree that the current way you are doing it is broken? Yes. By the time you present the price, the buyer has already admitted they need the solution. To say no now would be to contradict their own admitted reality. It would create a psychological fracture. Humans hate inconsistency. They will pay money to remain consistent with what they have just said. This is the trap of consistency. Furthermore, you must frame the final yes not as a purchase of a product, but as an acceptance of a new identity. The weak seller asks, "Do you want to buy this course?" The strong seller asks, "Are you ready to stop being the person who guesses and become the person who knows?" You are asking them to vote for their future self. When you align your offer with the person they want to be, resistance fades. The price becomes irrelevant because you cannot put a price on identity. We have now constructed the frame. We have exposed the pain, escape, positioned ourselves as the prize, inevitability, diagnosed the fear, diagnosis, and built the momentum, construction. But even the perfect frame can be shattered by the chaos of the moment. In the final act, we will discuss the mechanics of dominance, how to handle silence, how to wield resilience, and how to execute with the repetition of a machine.
Act 3. The mechanics of dominance. We have built the internal fortress, Act 1, and constructed the external trap, Act 2. Now we must discuss the execution. How does the prince behave in the heat of battle? How does he handle resistance, silence, and error?
Law 7. The law of repetition. The rich practice, the poor hope. The seventh law destroys the ego of the lazy. The rich practice, the poor hope. Hope is the religion of the powerless. Practice is the discipline of those who intend to win. Most people admire natural talent because it absolves them of responsibility. If sales success is a gift, then failure is not their fault. Machiavelli would dismiss this illusion immediately. Power is never accidental, it is engineered. Selling is a mechanical skill, like swordsmanship or engineering, and like all mechanical skills, it is sharpened through deliberate repetition. The amateur says, "I don't want to sound robotic." The master knows that only when you are robotic in your technique can you be fluid in your presence. Think of a concert pianist. He does not think about where his fingers go. He thinks about the emotion of the music. Why? Because he has practiced the scales 10,000 times. The mechanics are unconscious. You must reach this level with your words. You must know your objection handlers so well that you do not have to think to retrieve them. When a buyer says, "It's too expensive," you should not panic. You should not search for a clever line. The response should flow from you as naturally as breathing. The amateur strategy, they wing it. They treat every sales call as a unique event, hoping their personality will save them. The Machiavellian strategy, they simulate. They rehearse the tone, the pause, the exact phrasing of the price drop. Do not practice until you get it right. Practice until you cannot get it wrong. When you train daily, you remove fear. Fear thrives in uncertainty. But when you have seen every objection, heard every excuse, and navigated every stall 1,000 times in training, the live call holds no terror. It is just another repetition.
Law 8. The law of silence. The vacuum of power. Once you have mastered your words, you must master the absence of them. The 8th law is the most violent of all. Know when to be silent. The weak talk to feel safe. The powerful fall silent to take control. Most deals are not lost because of a bad product. They are lost because the seller could not tolerate the tension of silence. He states the price, and then he panics. He fills the gap with nervous chatter. "But we can offer a payment plan, or maybe a discount. Surely that sounds fair." Each word erodes his authority. He is negotiating against himself. Machiavelli warned that those who speak too much reveal their insecurity. The same law governs the close. Silence is not emptiness.
it is pressure. When you ask a closing question, "Do you want to fix this today?" you must shut your mouth. You must become a statue. The first person to speak loses. If you speak, you relieve the pressure. You let the buyer off the hook. But if you hold the silence, the pressure builds inside the buyer. They are forced to confront the decision. They are forced to look at their own hesitation. The silence creates a vacuum, and human nature compels them to fill that vacuum with the truth. They will either give you the real objection, which you can handle, or they will give you the credit card. Either way, silence forces the truth to the surface. Do not fear the awkwardness. The awkwardness is the sound of the buyer's ego breaking down. Let it break.
Law 9. The law of resilience. Stoicism in the face of error. Finally, we must address the inevitable. You will make mistakes. The 9th law states, no single mistake kills a deal, only panic does. The weak fear mistakes. The powerful assume recovery. Most sellers operate as if the transaction is fragile glass. One wrong word, one awkward pause, and they believe everything shatters. This belief keeps them tense and reactive. Power is not fragile, only illegitimacy is. If you fumble a line, if you forget a detail, if the technology fails, it does not matter. What matters is your reaction. If you apologize excessively, you signal weakness, you invite judgment. If you correct yourself calmly and move on, you signal resilience, you invite respect. Machiavelli understood that a ruler survives errors by controlling the narrative afterwards. The same applies here. Buyers forgive errors, they do not forgive insecurity. Detach emotionally from the outcome. This is the ultimate Stoic discipline. You must care deeply about the process of selling, but be completely indifferent to the result of the sale. When you need the deal to pay your rent, you stink of desperation. When you know you will survive without them, you are free. And in a negotiation, the person who cares less always wins.
Epilogue. The responsibility of kings. We have traversed the landscape of power. We have dismantled the lie of persuasion and erected the structure of dominance. You now understand that sales is not about convincing people to do what they do not want to do. It is about leading them to do what they must do, but lack the courage to decide alone. You are not a beggar asking for coins. You are a doctor offering a cure. You are a guide offering a map. You are a leader offering a future. This requires a shift in identity. You must stop seeing yourself as a nuisance. You must see yourself as a necessity. The market is filled with chaos. People are confused, distracted, and afraid. They are begging for someone to bring order to their lives. They are waiting for a voice that does not ask for permission, but commands attention. Be that voice. Stand tall. Believe in your governance. Sell the escape. Control the frame. And remember, the world does not reward those who ask to be chosen. It rewards those who choose themselves. The throne is empty. Take it.